Do you hear it? Beautiful. Listen closely to the anthem of your demise.
Through the dark veil of space and time. This is Warp Chatter.
Okay. Hello and welcome everybody to, once again, the Eye of Terror Studios. This is the Warp Chatter podcast. I am your host, Scuff D. This is the podcast about the digital card game Horus Heresy Legions. We talk about Horus Heresy lore, Warhammer 40,000, all that good fun stuff. It is a podcast by players for players. And we've got a lot to talk about today. We've got an ambitious podcast. We've got joining with us, we've got Karmatose, who is guesting on today.
Howdy, howdy.
And obviously, I'm palled up with Crab co-host Axel Manning is still here.
Howdy, howdy, ho.
And the three of us, we're going to be talking about a couple of things. First off, the developer Q&A was held on Monday of this week. So by the time you're listening to this, it'll actually be 2 weeks ago. But there was some good topics or some information there, at least maybe it's worth kind of gleaming over to kind of gather and prep as hype up. Because you should be hyped by the time you're hearing this. I believe tomorrow is the day. And through the week, you probably have seen or heard spoilers for the new expansion. That's information that's covered in the Q&A. So get hyped, stay hyped. And then we'll also be talking about the Iron Warriors, which I think is going to go very well with some of the stuff to come. So you're diving deep into the 4th Legion and all of their little bit of their lore, some strategies for decks, favorite cards, strengths, weaknesses, iron within, iron without. That's how it's going to be. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, Karmatose, you've been on here before. You've guested on our episode. I think it was actually episode 2. If I recall correctly. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah. So for those of the listeners who maybe have not checked that out, you want to give us a brief introduction of yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do with Legions.
My name is Karmatose by trade, and I like to make fun, silly decks and then try them increasing difficulty from practice to ladder and just walk through my decision-making on deck building and playing and sharing laughs. And mostly a whole lot of fun. Not a lot of meta. In fact, I don't think I've ever read a meta report, but lots of fun.
Yeah, the meta report, I've always thought about doing an episode on it. I read it occasionally. I was really open to get a lot of data out of them, and it's like, I think there's just not enough information to really digest it good. And
we got play count, we got play usage and win rate, which tells us not much.
It doesn't tell you much, and I think anybody who's played the game long enough and who plays it frequently, you can play anything and have a good time with it. So
I would love to see a top 50 meta report. So just have their names anonymously scrambled up there and just be like, Number 1 played Perturbo 99% of the time. Mm-hmm. Number 2 played, Dorn 82% of the time. I just want to see those ratios
stuff up there.
That would not be bad. Yeah, that would be a good twist. Because they've got it broken down between ladder, low Terra, and high Terra. But just to specifically say, hey, these are the players who made top 50, and this is what they ran. How much of that data ties into what we're already seeing on the meta report, we don't know. Because there's a big window there, especially for anyone not at that 4,000 cusp, but still above 3,500, feed into that high Terra numbers.
That's if the high Terra is still that. They change it regularly for some reason. Like right now, it's 3,800 and above.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, they've mentioned the last 4 meta reports have been 3,800 and above.
Oh, okay. I always thought it was 3,500, so I didn't really pay attention to when they changed it.
Yeah.
To be fair, between 3,200 and 3,700, it's nothing but bots anyway, so.
Yeah.
There is a bot window. That is for sure. That exists.
Can't complain, though. I was just going to say, then again, I'm not sure they're worth a lot of rank points, bots, because, bots aren't too bright.
They serve a purpose for a short window, and then after that...
Yeah. They sometimes cheat to get the perfect draw, but also at the same time, they'll just miss lethal for no reason.
Oh, good old
Like
bots.
I was at 5 HP against a Perturabo bot, fully charged up his ability, and he just didn't shoot me. And I won the next round, and I was just confused.
I started including bots in some of my most recent videos at the end, and I'll have games where Angron just like has 9 energy, plays nothing, has 10 energy, plays nothing, and I'm just
What?
like, what? You have 10 energy and 3 cards in your hand. What am I missing here? And it must be like all troop buffs or something. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand how they make the card decks for the bots either. They seem kind of random.
Yeah, I think we're due for some new bots. That was a question that didn't get asked in the Q&A, and this Q&A was a little limiting.
Yeah, 1 question a person?
1 question per person. Normally, I've got like a list of like 7 to 10 questions to ask. So, you know, I generally ask the questions that I figure aren't going to get asked too often, because everybody's always going to ask, like, hey, you know, please fix this, change this card, when's the new faction?
Add more deck slots.
Well, I'm going to ask that question every time.
And I heard you got an answer this time.
I did.
It was yes.
We are getting more deck slots. That wasn't even my question. I just kind of squeezed it in with my question. I was like, hey, I know you're
also deck slots, please.
Yeah, I was like, I know you're working hard on those new deck slots, so thank you for that. But here's my question. But yeah, so they limited the Q&A to 1 question per person, and I think some people were so focused on trying to get a second question asked that they weren't really paying attention to what was already being asked. And some, like within like the first 5 posts, people were already asking the same question again. It was like, okay, well,
yeah.
When do you get a fixed night?
I heard the mods had a fun time deleting second messages from a lot of people.
They worked hard, those mods, that day, and I'll give them credit for that. So it was kind of hard because, like, you know, it was hard to ask more, get more information for some of these things that would normally be like, hey, like, are we going to get new bot decks? You know, because people are kind of burned out on the ones that have been out for a while. Like, let's rotate
Can
things
you
out.
teach bots how Goldstone Hunters work?
Can we change the AI a little bit on the bots? Yeah, exactly.
Can we have Lotera's first turn not always be ability Ursa Claw counterattack?
So we did get some information, though. We did get some good stuff. We want to run down through what we've got for the Q&A and then just kind of build up from there, I guess. Kind of talk about what the takeaways that we got from it were.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I enjoyed Argus's Reddit post because he definitely got like the big deal announcements and other announcements needs to know. It's pretty concise.
Yeah,
it's a nice list.
He does a pretty good breakdown of troops as well. He does those in the daily posts.
Awesome, because I don't know how frequently all the Reddit users hit the Q&A, so I think it was good information for them to kind of get and like lump it together, you know. So like for people who maybe weren't fully in the know or knew how to participate in the Q&A, you know, here's what you missed.
And a lot of Reddit users just aren't on the Discord for some reason.
This is true. So
I don't really know why. Their opinions on balance make it very interesting for this reason.
in my journey, I started HHL through a YouTube ad. YouTube had an ad for it. I'm like, I like card games. I like Horse or Warhammer. And that's how I got there. From there, I'm like, there must be a Reddit. Then I jumped over to Reddit. And then from the Reddit, there was a beginners tournament. And that threw me onto the Discord. Oh. And that's where I've lived ever since. So
I found it by just going on the App Store, putting in the keywords Warhammer because I wanted something Warhammery, and going, yeah, I'll play this. And then I've only found the Discord server. Like I was joined at Callus. I joined the server once they posted the Death Guard patches, particularly the one that changed their hard removal from put in play to Nurglings or in hand. I don't remember to poison adjacent troops. And I went, oh. There's a Discord, and I clicked on that to go view the patch notes, and I've been here since.
And I also used to post the Discord link in like my first 80 videos. I totally forgot. I used to do that all the time, and now I don't.
Well, you know, I mention it occasionally now. I mean, sometimes it's just kind of when I'm talking about the community stuff, I'll like, here's the icon, go click on this. I got, I can't even remember how. I saw it on Facebook when they were doing beta. They were talking about the game in the beta, and it came through. I don't know if it was like shared in another 40K group that I was in, or the Facebook algorithm was like, hey, you look like you like 40K games. I don't know. So I was like, I saw that, download the game, and I played for a while before I knew about Discord. Like I heard about Discord just as I was trying to recruit and actually build a lodge, and that was like a big tool. was like, oh, and
Yeah.
then they discovered that community. So the Reddit was actually the second to last community.
Yeah,
I
same
discovered.
here.
Yeah, it was like, what's Reddit? Because I don't use Reddit that often, so I had to be introduced to Reddit just to find what Horus Heresy Legions was on Reddit.
Reddit's an okay thing. I don't use it much.
It's got.
I
its
mainly
uses.
use it for my. I mainly use it for compiling my shop data. I check what every daily shop is and then use it for predictions.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun little activity.
Yeah, somebody
I'm
who
pretty
breaks it
damn
down. I forget who it is that breaks it down.
Toxic Bulb.
Oh, Toxic does the daily.
Oh no, not daily. You're talking about the. Oh yes, that guy breaks it down. His name's escaping me. I think it's Von, not Van Boning, because that's a guy we know. But I think it's like Von Bison or something like that.
Argus 3 also does.
Yeah,
He breaks
He breaks
down
down
everything
troops.
in the store.
Oh, he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
He does the daily.
One
shop.
guy.
And
Yeah,
on
one
the
guy
topic
posted.
of, I was gonna say one guy posts it, and then Argus does one of the big breakdowns. But one of the big deal announcements was an increase to the shop.
Yes. Yes.
Problem that made me upset. It's related to the new game mode that we've been waiting for 2 expansions now. So,
Wait, how do you mean?
their exact quote was they mentioned the new game mode in it. I'll try to find the quote here. You can hear my vicious
Oh
scroll.
yeah, it does say that this will
Mhm.
be an element to the new game mode they are working
Yeah.
on. No.
Which made
No
me
more-
go, oh no.
So maybe it's like if you win or the harder you win, it creates like a mini one-time store or something.
Or it's the new
Gems
game
for
mode.
crates.
Yeah, the new game mode that they've featured or that they've talked about for over 2 years at this point that they want to work in is supposed to be a new feature that will provide users with based off of all the information that they've given over those 2 years, that it will provide users with a second way to spend their gems and will also somehow include lodge interaction.
Ooh.
And now will somehow involve a third shop potentially, or an increase to what is in the store for people to buy.
Yeah.
That's an awful lot for such a vague thing. It's like, how would that work? Like, what is this new feature going to be? At this point, I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, like I said, I didn't ask that question about the new feature because it's been going on for 2 years, and at this point I figured someone else would ask it, and that wasn't the question I wanted to ask. And the answer didn't surprise me that it's not ready, and at the same time it surprises me that they're adding, it sounds like they're adding more stuff that will be involved in it. I don't know if that was...
you probably want to build the basis of something before you start adding extra onto it.
I don't know
but
if that was
that's
always
just,
the
me.
intention or not. I mean, it's not the first time that they've said that they would like to increase the card availability, because especially as you add new expansions to the shop or to the game, the rotation takes longer and longer and longer for people to pick up the cards from that faction that they just missed that was in the shop yesterday. It might be another 4 weeks before they're back in the shop with a different set of cards. So
right now the rotation is about 12.5 days a faction, but that's only going to go up as they add more.
Yeah.
That's going to get real annoying.
So, yeah, that's one of the big announcements there. Obviously, they announced the new expansion, which, as I said at the start of the episode, I mean, that is going to be tomorrow. And that is going to be the Defenders of Terra, which will include the Imperial Fists, Sisters of Silence, and the Agents of the Sigilate.
The wording on that last one makes me really happy, because they could have just went Knights Errant and focused on the Knights Errant.
Right.
But the Sigilate, also known as Malkador the Chad, is he's in charge of the assassins too.
Right.
So we'll be getting them.
Yes.
Hopefully. I think they mentioned that. I don't remember though.
They did. They said there's going to be assassins involved, and there's lots of other agents besides, a couple of the named Knights Errant. That was one thing that kind of tied in there where they were talking. Somebody had asked, like, if Nathaniel Garrow and Loken were going to be warlords for the Agents of the Sigilate because they were Knights Errant. And the response was, well, that might be confusing because they're existing warlords in another faction. And yes,
the catch-all, it will confuse new players.
It would confuse new players. I think they could easily make them a faction card, like a legendary.
Like a legendary troop for Loken called Cerberus.
Exactly. And it's a 6-drop or whatever, and I think that would work out just fine. But I don't want Agents of the Sigilate just to be Knights Errant, because there should be assassins. You could have several Knights Errant. You could have Rubio, the Ultramarine Psyker. He worked out for Malkador. Or you could have the, I forget the guy's name, but he was the Vindicare assassin. And I think he could be a great warlord as well.
The Night Lord librarian is pretty neat.
Yeah.
I forget his name right now.
Let me guess. Are we going to wager Malgador is going to be the legendary?
He is
Oh,
the legendary.
undoubtedly.
100%.
He is the legendary.
Yeah.
Did they say so?
Yeah, based off of the art that they've debuted. Like, we know who
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they gave that banner art, and you know that those are going to be the legendary warlords of the factions.
Dorn the legendary? Shocker.
Shock? Dorn? Legendary? Yes. And then a big question, or I guess as it ties to a lot of people talking about the balance for older factions or older cards that haven't seen updates, is that they're focused on the new expansion. Older faction adjustment will be later if they occur, which is that's actually typical. I think what a lot of people were surprised about was the fact that the expansion date was April 23rd, and they thought maybe they had another 2 to 4 weeks. Maybe we get another patch in there before then, but with the new expansion coming out so soon, it makes sense that their focus is going to be to make sure that the new factions that they're rolling out are balanced and up to date. And we've seen that from at least Malevolence. I don't know if Calth was getting the factions in Calth got balanced as quickly as the ones that debuted in Malevolence and in Defenders of
not Calth, no. Wordbearers took a little bit.
Usually what they do is the first faction they release is the weakest of the first 3 at first.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody dumps all their golds and gems into the first one, and then it turns out to actually be pretty fair relative to other things. Maybe even a little underperforming just because people don't know the synergies perfectly yet, or they don't have 100%. Then each faction that gets released thereafter gets a little or a lot better or a little better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go low, medium, high. And then before they release the third faction, they'll introduce a buff to the first one.
Yep.
At least that's what they've done during the Wordbearers and what they did for Blood Angels.
Yes.
I'd say except the White Scars coming out pretty That's the only downside there.
Well, the White Scars came out pretty strong for a couple weeks until several key cards got nerfed, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my...
Yeah, Targatao's Sacrifice.
Targatao's Sacrifice really knocked him down a peg, and at that point, everybody jumped from... to Warp Retreat Mortis squad because the Raven Guard received a buff. So
I totally forgot about the Warp Retreat incident that happened for so long. It was so long ago, yet it feels so close.
Well, the big news that I liked, and it wasn't a question that I asked, but I liked it, was the fact that the game lifespan, they have planned multiple expansions after this one. For the longest time, I've defended this online and in chat for a long time. This is not the last expansion, Defenders of Terra.
I knew this couldn't be the last.
No,
they've already said we're getting our 5th Warlord.
They said we're getting 5th Warlords. They use the word expansions, plural. They're going to be adding cards to other factions. Maybe we'll get new factions as well. So I mean, we've got another year or two minimal of the game with which you already enjoy. So yeah, I was happy to hear that.
Or play simply out of pure spite.
Some people do.
Like more time.
Yeah, some people do. They just can't give it up. They did mention that the Night Lords may get a rework in the future. They're aware that they've got some limited competitive strategies. They're going to try.
I was going to say, I feel like for Night Lords, they need to be just shifted around a lot because if they buff too much, they'll be too oppressive. And they can't be nerfed at this point, so they just need some moving around.
Yeah. Just make it shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, poke it with a stick and see what happens.
I'd like to see the legendaries brought down and everything else brought up.
I agree.
Because in at least the one legendary survey I've done, they were the winner.
Yeah.
They had universally agreed upon all at the time, the best set of legendaries. And they're also the faction that if you don't have every single legendary, you're not in a competitive sense with that legion because they're just utterly dependent on all of them. And they're all amazing.
I was about to say, they're the best, but also you need them or else you'll lose.
I agree. I think that they are the most legendary intensive for that reason, because it is what drives their game, not their commons. Like you can have a couple epics, like Reaper of Kaldrak is fantastic. That's nice, but that doesn't drive the game in the same way. Yeah, Recon Claw can help with some decks. It's not needed with all, but it's handy for most.
Turning like Kurz's Chosen into a flanking troop, beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so they're pretty strong. I'd like to see the comments go up.
I would love to see their buffs and maybe make Mercy and Forgiveness to compensate because you had to lower it. Make it like Paragon Spear. Burn some energy this turn to gain your double attack.
That would be
You
interesting.
can just increase the cost of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking of a more unique change to it, but yeah, energy cost could definitely help because it is cheap. Having it dropped on turn 2, it's like, yay, fun. Thanks, Curse.
Yeah, right out the gate. That's rough.
Because once he hits 4 energy, he's about to deal 4 damage with no downside, assuming he doesn't play anything.
They were going to talk about adding some explanation to balance patches in the future. They'll see.
I was
about
very
that.
happy for that.
Because sometimes people, especially this last patch that we got, was like, where did this come from? What's the idea?
I want to see. I want to see the blurb beside the hammer change.
Yeah, like where was the thought process on this? There was a lot of kickback with people when they talked about stunning night weapons when the Warlord is stunned. Everguild doesn't have a plan to change that at the moment. They didn't say anything about having weapons be used multiple times, and I was actually honestly disappointed that nobody asked that question. Because I already asked my question at that point. Like, that's actually more of an issue for me than anything else, is that the fact that you can change the weapons out multiple times in a turn and use them more than I care about the weapons being stunned if the Warlord's stunned. But that's just a personal thing.
Yeah, for me, I think that slot should become fatigued.
I
so
agree.
to use the right arm. If you use the right arm, you're good to swap out the left arm and then use that real quick. But you can't use the right arm and then swap out the left arm.
If you want to change weapons and you haven't used it, fine. But if you used it, you can't juggle and drop 2 or 3 battle cannons. They confirm more deck slots. We are going to get alternate art for Sanguinius and the other Primarchs. They are aware that Luther is underperforming and nobody really seems to be playing him. They mentioned that they're working on a level cap. They had mentioned that before. So that's not something new. They mentioned that draft mode is here to stay and is going to continue. And they mentioned that they're looking to Gilliman's ability, maybe being tweaked because sometimes when there's stealth, ward, or duplicitous troops, he can't do anything. And
I love it so.
Yeah. Here's my thing. For me, it's totally thematic because he doesn't see.
Oh, it makes
coming.
sense.
Like in the story, like he's like, I don't see what the problem is. Like, we're friends, and then he gets betrayed, and then he's like, oh, you were stealthed or you were duplicitous, or like, it just makes sense to me. I'm fine with it, but I understand the frustration of not being able to use your warlord ability.
Play them primarily because political reasons, as in they are my enemies morally, but I can understand people wanting Gilliman changed a bit, especially when I drop a warded troop and then they just stare at me for a bit.
Yeah.
On one of the previous points of having explanations behind changes, I 100% know the explanation why they changed. What was that? Triumph of Ultramar? Is that the one?
Using it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
not Ultramar, but Olinor?
0 people used it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
0.
I think we're still going to have 0 people use it, even with the change.
Truly. But I think that 0 will go up to 2 people. Okay, Scott? At least 2.
Look, it could get played more if it's now generated because of Portmaw, I guess. That's about
it. Yeah.
Maybe?
And Kai.
Yeah, that's about it. Like, I mean, I can think of at least a dozen cards that give me more than a +1/+1 for cheaper.
Let me hit you with this real quick, Karma. This may come to a shock to you, but if I get a spread of 3 cards and one of them's triumphs, I'm not clicking on the triumphs.
Oh, I had the worst Kai spread the other day. I was playing Ammon, and I got, search your deck for Dark Angels. Like, nope, not useful. Get 3 Mechanicum from your deck. Nope, don't have any. Give a bonus to your stealth troops. Nope, don't have any.
3 that were awful. It was the DEA one that boosts the wings, and then it was 2 cards that granted mutations. And I just looked at the board and went, "This is cool."
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Dark Angels because they're going to add the Dark Angels to the Imperium Secundus card, which they should because they had said that they were going to. I think that's actually kind of interesting though because most of the Dark Angels troops are very Dark Angel centric, so I don't know how many times that's the one that you're going to want to play. Like, I think if you were to get, Astravel, which works for Astartes, that could still be beneficial for you.
You figure that because it's a 3 thing, that they're always going to do 1 Blood Angel, 1 Ultramarine, 1 Dark Angel.
I would like that to be the case.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Hopefully they rigged the Dark Angel pool to be the wingless ones, because those tend to be better.
Right. Yeah, because if they're wing-centric or they're Dark Angel-centric, you're like, why would I pick that? You would just never pick those cards.
I'm shooting myself in the foot. I can't buff anything with this. Especially if it's like the 1/1 with flank and sneak attack. It's like, oh, if only I could buff this.
Right. And then for the big thing I think that was kind of cool was that they talked about the card back for the Discord mods. I heard that. We've had Discord mods and tournament organizers who have contributed to the community for a very long time. So much of what's done in the community, whether it's tournament organization, Discord mods, even the mods on Reddit, which I think are actually Discord mods too.
Restless Brow Syndrome, for example, being our boy Dornstash.
Is Dornstash.
Dornstash, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
the homie.
A lot of that is player driven, and it's primarily player driven to keep things in line, keep things moving, keep the game supporting players, and keep people interested in that game. So that's pretty cool that they get something, because they should.
I think my very, very first videos was from like my second entry beginner tournament, and it was me getting second place or whatever, and something like that. Golly, that was so long ago. And that's the whole reason I started the channel, was the Discord community and the Reddit community.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to starting this habit.
Yeah. So, I mean, you think about that, it all ties in. It would not exist without the people behind the scenes, or the people who are, up front in the scenes with the blue tags, the purple tags on Discord. They get a lot of heat sometimes. They get a lot of flack, and they put up with a lot. But at the same time, they serve a very, very important role, and they've never really been acknowledged beyond that, aside from, I guess I'm sure, like, if we had mods, I think they have some communication with EG from time to time, but
EG do message in their private chats, I've been told. In fact, this is going to come in surprising. EG told them that they got this card back like 6 months ago.
Oh, okay. Well,
like it's been taking a while, but it's finally coming.
And like, listen, guys, we are going to get you that card back. We told you about. We promise.
Give us a couple of days.
There was a lot of confusion caused by the announcement. People in the Discord were poking me like, "Karmatose, you're going to get a card back." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
The original comment was people who mods and people who contributed. So I assume that the big YouTubers would get it too, like YouTube. But then they backed down on that and said it'll just be the mods.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't need a card. I'm not a card back guy. It would be cool, but at the same time, all I do is do videos. Like, I don't manage. I manage my lodge. I don't manage a community, and that's a different thing altogether.
I've said it before, but I would absolutely pay money for custom card backs.
Oh yeah,
I would.
If you could make a custom card back, for sure.
If I could make a ticket and be like, "Here's my art. This is what I want to be my card back. There's no copyright." I signed something to the effect that there's no copyright issue, and then they can reverse Google image it, and then I can just have, giant K's on the back of my card.
That would be cool. And there's that whole Discord server for the card makers, and I know, like dozens of custom card backs that people have made, either for factions or for just different art that they liked, like that looked thematic to 40K or Horus Heresy. You throw that in there, especially if you want to do your own logo, or your own ident. It sounds it's not like a photo picture. That would be cool. That would be a cool concept.
Yeah. You never know. We may see that towards the end of the game's lifespan.
Yeah, when they're just like, hey, you want to give us money? We'll take it.
Yeah. I like how the card back Sally seemed, the kindest legion.
Yeah, it's the banhammer, so it makes sense.
The Urdrickle. Yeah. The hammer is so powerful it could smash Ferris's arms.
That's right.
The ukulele.
I mean, overall,
that's what you call it?
What are your guys' takeaways from the Q&A, like from all that?
I mean, it was a lot of non-answers like usual, but what we did get was nice.
Namely, we got the whole new content coming like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what surprised me the most.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people thought like, it's the same dodgy answers that we get, and yes, same dodgy answers is what they've got. Like, hey, we can't answer that right now, or thanks for the feedback.
Or they hit you with a sarcastic quote from a character.
Right. But the one thing that I have to say with this Q&A, and the last Q&A was not like this. They provided information. There was a reason for having this Q&A. There have been some Q&As in the past where it's like you go through and you read everything and there's no new information. There's no answers to anything, like not even like hints. It's like, why did you have this Q&A? And that's not what we got here. We know some very important things for me. I mean, first off, you know that the expansion's coming, and you know that there's going to be more expansions, and you know that what is still on their plate as far as what they are prioritizing that they would like to continue working on, whether that is balancing, whether that is new factions, whether that is, alternate art, whether that is level caps, like things that have been running the long-term list. So I mean, I was fine with it. I liked the Q&A.
Oh yeah.
And that's not just because it was about, Imperial Fists are coming out. It was like, okay, this is something to chew on for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy about it. I would have liked a bit more, like, on what legions are looking for to rework in the future, but pure at the end of the day that, hey, by the way, the expansion you were thinking would be in a couple months at most is, like, in a week. Have fun.
Yeah, get ready. Get hyped. And Karmatose and me are both hyped. We've left Axel out of the loop here, but
they blue-balled me.
Prior to prior to recording, we hyped each other up hard.
Oh, I like that.
All right. You know what? I'm going to give a vague special preview to our listeners. Are you ready for this, guys?
Go for it.
Horn will be a character.
All right. Okay, one of the cards has the word wall in it. All right. One of the cards has the word fortification in it, and one of the cards has the word sentry in it. Now, I know what you're thinking, that these are Imperial Fists, and this is totally out there, but I think that really gives you a picture.
I think that's a good, solid picture. I will build on that. I have a card that has the word squad in it.
Ooh.
Wow.
I have a card.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Really shook me to my core.
You had no idea. I have a card that costs 7 energy.
Ooh, that's a new one. I haven't seen something like that since earlier today.
And I have a card that has a 1 energy ability.
It shook me to my core with those ones, Scott.
That's it. You'll never know. I mean, by the time you're listening to this, you should know. And hopefully you are as hyped.
Mainly just to bully me, for those listening.
You didn't know, Axel. But yeah,
Schadenfreude is just fun.
I am hyped. For it. I'm looking forward to this expansion, but we're not talking about the Imperial Fist. We'll be doing that, I think, next episode. We'll be talking about the faction because it'll be out in its entirety at that point. We're here to talk about the rivals of the Imperial Fist. We're here to talk about the Iron Warriors.
The cooler Imperial Fists.
I don't know about that.
All right, Scoff as he quietly hovers over the ban from podcast button.
Like, you guys might inadvertently be muted occasionally through the course of this recording. Like,
oh, okay, I understand. Just connection problems, right?
Well, I didn't hear that last part. I think you were telling me that the Iron Warriors were not as cool as the Imperial Fists. No, I'll set aside my
just dub over what I say with like pre-recorded conversations.
Right.
I mean, these new lemons that are coming out, they're going to be neat or something, but Iron Warriors is really, where it's at for this card game. Just saying.
Truly. Much to Scuff's dismay. He'll get over it.
Karma, do you play Iron Warriors on the tabletop? I'm trying to remember.
That is what I'm painting. I have a little 2,000 point Chaos Army, and my goal is to make them Iron Warriors. I have exactly 1 model painted. And, Axel, it's painted like a crab.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
Yep.
God bless.
Does it have hazard striping?
Oh, no. Because, again, I'm just painting them how I want.
Okay,
and
I gotcha.
The way I want them to walk like crab, shoot like chaos.
Okay.
Yes.
So
perfect. The mobile oppression palace.
Yeah, the whole thing was fun because I got a defiler, which took me like 4 months of waiting online to snipe when it finally became available. And as soon as I built it, the first thing I was like, this is the mobile oppression palace.
I didn't even know that. That was just me making a quick reference.
No. I went from there to like, I'm going to paint everything crab now.
I love it. Perfect.
Well, the Iron Warriors, I mean, they're predominantly siege heavy. I mean, that's in-game in 40k, but they also have got my introduction to them when I was playing 40k was my very first game. And my friend was playing Iron Warriors, and I was just Space Marines. This before I even had read the Codex and knew what the factions were at this time. And he had a Vindicator because they could get a Vindicator as the Iron Warriors. And his very first role was to fire that Vindicator right on top of my command squad and wipe out everything. Didn't scatter, and I'm just learning the rules. I'm like, okay, so what happens? He's like, okay, so those models are just gone.
Will.
I'm like, what? I don't they have armor. He's like, nah, not with this. So that was my introduction with the Iron Warriors.
Vindicator on the table, get fucked.
Yeah, and every game after that we played, I sought blood on his Iron Warriors, and the games escalated, right? Because at this point we were just playing I think we played 500 points. So in 500 points, he bought a Vindicator. I just want to make that clear. 500-point game. I'm like 2 squads, and he's like, here's a Vindicator, and here's a 5-man squad and a Havoc squad or something like that. It was ridiculous. He was teaching me. That was my teacher. That was who taught me 40K.
Teach your friends by bullying them?
Yeah, exactly. So then the games would escalate and they get higher, and then he started bringing in Chaos Terminators with their Combi Bolters and Combi Melters, and then he brought in the Land Raider, which then I had to answer with a Land Raider in turn, and some Terminators of my own, and then this is when Obliterators came out, and that was
I love Obliterators.
Obliterators were just wait, hang on, they have everything? He's like, yeah, they have whatever weapon I want them to have.
I have a gun for a mouse. Deal with it.
Yeah, I was like, this is just ridiculous. And then I really, at that point, I really started diving into the rules of the Codex. And, game-wise, that's their thing. But also, fluff-wise, they take that weaponry, and in 40K especially, and that fusion of flesh and mutation and demonic weaponry. And I think Defiler is a perfect, war machine for them, both in appearance as well as power and how it operates. I could definitely see 2 Defilers in an Iron Warriors army easily, and then just have a bunch of, either Havoc squads or squads and Rhinos. Maybe a command squad with a bunch of, Chaos Terminators. Visually, they're very cool. And game-wise and on tabletop, they're what's not to like, right?
Yeah.
Chaos Undivided. I think, I don't know if it was Axel, if I was talking to you or I was talking to somebody else, in general, if I had to choose
it was
me. Yeah, Chaos Undivided is cooler for me than Chaos Dedicated,
Yeah. I remember this because you were
talking about how much the Chaos Gods suck, but Undivided's pretty neat.
Undivided is cool because they basically say, look, we're not going to dedicate ourselves to just one. We'll take what you got. And depending on how you do your Iron Warriors army, you could have them be all, chaosy with the spikes and stuff, or you could just have them be kind of renegade, look, we just want to take out our anger issues on some Imperial citizens.
Yeah.
Something that I'm super happy about in my lore universe expansion is that I have been listening to audiobooks for Horus Heresy, just waiting for the introduction of Perturbo after all my Iron Warrior fandom, and I finally hit it. And at the very end of a book that I will not spoil the name of, we get a little bit of Perturbo. And I'm yes! And that's all I got. But I'm just happy I finally reached that point.
Have you not
Have
you not gotten to Angel Exterminatus?
Nope.
That book you will enjoy. That is a very good book. That is I won't sum it up. Perturbo is one of the primaries in that book.
Wow.
Ooh.
That's good.
Yeah.
I feel like you would also like Iron Warriors on tabletop for 30K Karma. They take attrition and crank it by 11. They can just shrug off ranged casualties.
I still need to actually have my first full game of 40K tabletop because this thing called COVID started.
I haven't heard of it.
What?
Apparently they would just let you walk into the store and they'd block off 90% of it, and you could buy your stuff and take it home, and then that's it. And I did maybe a trial match with a friend of a friend, and that of course ramped up my buying because I, have control issues sometimes. But I need to find either a tabletop simulator sensei, or I just need to finally get down to the store because I think in my state things are finally available. Yeah.
Fair enough. If you ever need the books for 30K or even 40K, I may or not know where you can find them for free, but that's just a hypothetical scenario, of course.
They may exist outside of the Eye of Terror studios.
They may. I may have them, or I may not. I can't actually say.
You cannot confirm
or deny.
Yeah, they're as far as
I plead the fifth.
Rules go, army goes. I think they're pretty straightforward, and you get powerful weapons, you get powerful stuff. Like I don't think there's anything not to like. Whereas like some of the like I said, like the focused legions, sometimes you're like, oh, you know, Nurgle's got higher toughness, it's slower, or Zeech, he's got the psyker abilities, but maybe their unit options are limited. I don't know.
That just remind me, the 90 upgrade, the 90 buffs for them are crazy. Their vehicles are a lot better now.
Well,
Iron Warriors, their vehicles, I'm pretty sure it can fire while moving now, and can run over troops without it slowing them down.
Okay.
I would need to check over the exact changes again because I don't exactly remember, but I heard they were really good for Iron Warriors.
And for me, the best thing I like with Iron Warriors, the reason my friend picked them is because he could dry brush the whole army and paint them pretty quick.
Yeah.
Right? Some
'cause
bolt gun, some black, and then you wash with some brown or whatever, and you're good to go.
Yeah, because their cannon color is unpainted.
That's pretty much
Their armor is fresh off the factory floor because they're that disposable.
Yeah, but I personally like the, and I know it's hard to paint, but I like the hazard striping. I like that concept. Like, you don't see it too often in armies, but when armies do it like that, and the checkered painting like that you get either on like the Dark Angels or like Orcs, if it's done well, it looks so cool. Like I think there's nothing wrong with having like like a vehicle, and then on like a couple of the armor plates, if you get that hazard striping done right, or if every Iron Warriors had hazard striping at some part of their armor, whether it's a knee pad or shoulder pad or their bolter, or their chainsword or whatever, it just looks cool. It gives you something to draw the eye to.
It's like the Lamentor's checkered thing, but easier to draw.
Yeah.
Or paint, rather.
I mean, thematically, it always makes you wonder, like, why are we putting hazard striping here? Like, what's hazardous about this bolter?
Dangerous. It's a suit of armor.
You obviously, your chainsword is not something I want to go near. Like, why are you waving it around?
See, I figured it was to avoid friendly fire.
I figure it's for the enemy. This is a hazard for you.
Hey, you never know. It could be. You're like, hey, if you see this, look out. Like, we don't want to shoot this one. But yeah, and that's one thing. Like, if you take a look at the cards, I think Narek has got, Draeger has got hazard striping on his shoulder pad.
Yeah.
But then Forex has hazard striping too, and there's actually different colors for hazard striping depending on how you're doing it. You could do the orange and black, you could do the yellow and black, you could do the white and black. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. I think it's just, if you're going to do it uniform, but...
Perturabo's got the stripes too on his right shoulder.
Yeah, he does. He's got them.
But then Falk lacks them because Falk is, Falk.
Falk is...
I feel like...
different altogether.
I feel like it's actually standardly yellow and black for all of them, and the only way it turns orange is when it's sufficiently bloodied.
Yeah.
That's
wear and tear.
Yeah, I could see that. That's totally fair. Or just like it's been grimed into, through the course of battle, it's got mud on it. Maybe the mud is covering up the yellow, and you're getting that yellow through the mud. I'm
running through their troops right now, and so many of them have hazard striping. It's amazing.
God, the hazard striping, guys. That's key. If you're an Iron Warrior and you don't have hazard striping, then you're gonna get decimated. That's what's going to happen.
There's a high chance the hazard striping is just from their factories it's produced in, just as a warning for the workers too, and they just don't paint it. They don't care.
See, then you got Falk here trying to imitate the Emperor on the Golden Throne.
Well, yeah. To be fair, the Falk art is from an old 40K book. It's old.
Emphasis on old.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking early, when it was like the Iron Warriors, like when some of the stuff that they wrote just doesn't happen anymore because they've moved the theme or the stories past that, and that was the cover art for it. It looks cool, and it definitely can go into the 40K world, but it is not a 30K. It's not a 30K image, although technically it is, because he's a Space Marine, and everybody in the Traitor Legions was in 30K and at some point survived through the heresy to end up in 40K.
Not 100% of them, but most of the big named ones.
Right. Yeah, most of the big ones survived. Yeah. Yeah,
most of the new startups are mixed gene seed and they don't live long.
Yeah.
Like what was the guy's name who made the Demacula? You know what I'm talking about? God, I can't remember his name, but he was half Imperial Fist, half Iron Warrior. So obviously he's not Horus Heresy.
No, I know who you're talking about, but I don't know that name. Yeah.
Everyone knows him for that one guy who did the apparently worst thing in 40K, though I still argue if you look at anything Dark Eldar or Slanesh, it's worse. Demonacula, I think it's pronounced. For those interested, you can Google it. I don't recommend it, but have fun.
Yeah, there's some interesting, like in those early stories, there is some interesting stuff. Like I think like in one, there's an Iron Warrior who like takes out a Titan with a power fist. Like a Titan, like not even like a Warhound Titan. Like
I haven't heard that one.
yeah, like in game, I think you could do it at the time at those editions because you could just create wounds on like structure points on vehicles as they played in that game. But you look at it now, like in lore, like that's just like they've moved past that. Like if it's a Titan, it takes a Titan to kill a Titan, essentially. Like you don't
Or a
see,
Primus.
or a bunch of like tanks or something to just pepper it with fire. You don't see like one guy like I'm just gonna swing my fist at its toe and it blows up. Like that just doesn't happen. But yeah, that's the thing.
I've heard from a second source that somebody did a Titan versus an equivalent number of cultists, point wise, as a tabletop match.
That's just a lot of dice rolling at that point. Like
Oh yeah.
whether it's armor saves or shooting.
I think it's just sixes.
Yeah. just good luck. You gotta survive the barrage first. Well, talking about barrages, we're getting into the meat here. Let's get into the cards of the Iron Warriors themselves. The Iron Warriors, obviously, they've got the siege mechanic, which is quite frankly one of the lowest tier power mechanics that exists in the game, right? I mean, can we agree on that?
Really, I could have sworn Sentinel was great and amazing in comparison.
No, I've actually got a tier list, and I mean, it's above Sentinel and it's above Maintenance because those count. But
of course.
Yeah, but
Maintenance, the best feature.
Like,
I think the secret advantage of Siege is to never actually use the Siege, except when you wouldn't have attacked anyway, and it creates a psychological effect. So I love running the Endymion squad, the 3-4 for 3, who creates 2 Olympians, who also fantastic if you get it off, because then you can start removing Siege. But usually you play him, and with Purdy, you still want to suicide your troops away. But, when they give him can't attack or something, or in general, if you think you can bait them to attack the first hit, and then you can swing out for the second, so that way you get your Whisper tick, you just sit back and you do the siege, and then let them react to it. And it's just kind of a way to bait some good damage there. Otherwise, you really have to, have attrition warfare to synergize, and that makes a lot of these sieges amazing.
Yes.
Or you need to have harsh discipline. So unless you're running both of those, it would just generally not pick siege troops. Maybe even Perturbo's Wrath, but no, more generally, harsh discipline and attrition warfare.
Yeah,
I have a video dedicated to this.
The siege abilities, the abilities that have siege, they're great abilities, but it's the execution and the way the pacing of the game plays that makes it hard. So on my list, I've got, just to break it for you guys, I've got siege at the bottom of C tier, just above Berserk, Sentinel, and Maintenance, which are in D tier, because those have no positive influences. Whereas Siege, if you use it, you can use it effectively, and you can actually do some devastating things with it. The biggest upsell for Siege is really Perturabo's ability, right? That's the only exception. Where it's like that's having Siege on a Warlord, whether it is Perturabo or Shuriken.
You can't remove it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're going to get this ability when
you buff attrition warfare to remove it on units, not troops.
Oof, that'd be brutal.
No.
I like that future. Put it on my Iron Circle. Every turn I get an Iron Circle when my Perturabo is in Reckoning.
So,
welcome to hell.
The faction isn't... they've got Siege on... Just take a look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their units. But that's not what defines them. I think, when I think of the Iron Warriors, I just think damage. Like, they have so much damage cards, whether it is damage through troops or damage through tactics or abilities. They have so many ways just to deal out crazy bursts of damage. And that's not just counting, the Falk deck, where you're running the Bloodthirst Tyranthicos veterans. We're talking Conchador combined with a Precision Bombardment combined with a Warlord ability late game for huge lethal windows. Or we're talking about a Perturabo's Wrath with 2 or 3 units on the board, dumping in. Vehicles that are, their high cost vehicles are all good You may use them in different ways, shapes, and forms, and I think usually I only see them like the 8+ when I'm generating them from Drager or from Perturabo if he's making an Iron Circle, but they're good in their own right.
I think
that's just what I think.
The main damage pumps, the Iron Warriors, that made me fall in love with them is the natural anti-stealth that exists for them. 5th Support Squad is the deal 2 damage to a random enemy troop. Instantly you can pick off, enemy stealth 4/2 sneak attackers or whatever. And then, the list really goes on when you actually break it down. Obviously, viral bombs, big and huge.
Oh, I love viral bombs.
Yep.
You have the Torbidon Squad for 3 damage all, if you happen to get them there for that. The best one is probably 30th Heavy Squad for the deal 3 damage to a random enemy troop. If it dies, repeat the effect.
I love that. I don't see it often, but it's so fun.
I've given him Bloodthirst in a game, and then it just guarantees wipes the entire enemy board, because it's like either it's going to hit this guy and then that guy, or it's going to hit the first guy, then I do it again, and then it hits that guy and hits the other. You just completely wipe their whole everything. And then
completely shut down game plans when it's like, oh, my entire board died for 4 energy. Cool.
You also have Iron Havoc Squad. Whenever an enemy attacks, deal 3 damage to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can immediately punish the stealth units if you weren't able to take them out beforehand. The Timer Terminators, 3 damage to 3 random targets.
If you can remove stealth, and if you can remove siege, and give it Bloodthirst, that's a fun card right there.
Oh my god.
I bullied my friends when they first started playing.
I love the fact that isn't a Astartes, by the way. Like, that's my favorite part about that. Like, it's frontline, but it's Astartes and it's high, so you can't Melgator it, you can't melt a bomb it. Like, your best bet is to have 2 breaches. That's it. Like, otherwise it's gonna do something. It's either gonna attack you for 5, 10 if they've got a Perturabo's Wrath, or you're gonna get that siege ability triggered.
Yeah.
So, and I tie this in with the anti-stealth because I hate running anti-stealth. The idea of running a few cards specifically targeted to anti-stealth bothers me, whereas when you have Iron Warriors, just by virtue of making an Iron Warriors deck, it doesn't matter if they're hiding behind cover, because you're just going to blast the ever-living shit out of them.
Yeah, I agree.
For me,
that's between their counterattack and their splash damage, whether it's from troops or other tactics or abilities that you're putting in there. You don't have to worry about that. Like, your opponent has to worry about playing around what you have, and that's just an inherent advantage when it comes to that matchup.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, that's one of my favorite parts about Word Bearers. Oh, it's a flanker. Oh, it also removes stealth? Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
I hate kidding in specific cards. Like, recently I've been running jams due to Defense Forces and Death Shrouds just because it's getting on my nerves.
And then, of course, we could just talk about the control tactics. Precision Bombardment being one of the damage ones is...
Man, that thing will never stop pulling itself.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite cards in the game, because you always run 2 of them. It's a great 3 for 3, so, F you, Jubok, F you, lots of things. And it deals that 3 damage in immediate draw cycle.
Yeah.
And...
I mean, I know it's early because we haven't talked about all the cards or the rankings, but quite frankly, I think that is the best. That's my favorite Iron Warriors card.
Oh, it's up there. I love viral bombs because it's so thematic. Like, it has a great effect.
It's a big
precision
pool.
Bombardment.
Yeah, they've got a very big pool. It's hard to choose from, but I cannot shake it. Like, that card, there's no drawback.
It's game changing. If you don't have it in your deck's inherently worse than those who do.
And I cannot tell you how many games.
Firepower.
Yeah, that's good too, but I cannot tell you how many games I've had my board continuously destroyed by precision bombardment. Like, it's one thing if I lose like one card, I'm like, okay, you got my Jubak, you got my Kai, but like every other turn, here comes that precision bombardment getting shuffled back in and drawn up again. Like, it just kills me.
And it also wins you the game. It legitimately just synergizes with Perturabo or Contrador.
Contrador Perturabo for 16 damage.
Yeah.
Superior firepower, though, specifically counters Mortar Company. And what used to be the scourge of Arcology, which is greatly diminished. Good on them for that. But then there's just some other goodies that it takes out directly. The 3/5 healer for Ultramarines, or some of my other favorite targets for that boy.
What's his name? Knightly Fortress, which may not be the best card in the DLC card pool, but it still annoys me when it gets dropped.
There's the Alpha Legion 3/4 that always is a 3/4 by the time it's your turn, and then goes +1/+1 for each draw.
Yeah, Ghost Squad.
Ghost Legionary.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that troop so much.
But superior firepower nips that shit in the bud,
Mhm.
so long as they didn't combine a draw in the same turn. No, that's just delightful control there. And then Rack and Ruin is the Canis Breaker.
Any vehicle, like I think the only vehicle that could withstand that one card would have to have some other card played on it to give it survivor or higher health, because it gets rid of even the 10/10 with the shield, right, from the Emperor's Children, because it kills a shield and then deals 10. You have survivor.
Iron Warriors has a troop that can survive it, and it's Latrathus, because it's an
It's got
8/12
shield
with
and 12. Yeah, that's about it.
That's the one troop I can think of.
You gotta play Iron Warriors to beat Iron Warriors, baby.
What's the Callidius Annihilator tank stats? Isn't it like an 8/8 with shield? If
That
not,
dies.
it could probably serve it. Yeah, I was gonna say if it had more HP, I don't remember what it is. I think it's 8/8.
But that's the one drawback about Iron Warriors, is that that's the closest they have to a direct kill. There is no destroy target troop, other than if they have attack 3 or less.
Yeah.
Superior firepower is your one utter destroy, and otherwise, you're just gonna have to damage it down. So when they drop that big ward troop or something, you're gonna have to face bash it away somehow.
It can be
Corpse
hard if
Spawn will survive it.
if they get like Bale Eye and they start pumping him up, and that's really dangerous with Space Wolves, because your inherent counters that you can't throw tactics are troops, and Space Wolves Russ loves to flank your troops to make himself stronger, so it's a dangerous game.
Viral bombs, at least, is the great counter to all stealth and all ward. So
Yeah.
they always have that in their back pocket. But as soon as they have their 10/10 troop, that's hard, because you can't viral bomb a 10/10. You're
No.
going to have to...
You have to put up what's the two front walls, the bitter end. You got to be like, that's it. It's time for the bitter end.
I'm gonna hide from this and pray.
Nothing feels worse than dropping your Perturbo 6 damage into something, using your counterattack, then dropping a precision bombardment, and you're like, finally, I took out that 10/10, and then they just drop another one, and it's like, well...
Oh shit, I don't know.
Jeez.
Nothing feels better than when your opponent, Iron Warrior, uses Contrador to clear out a troop. Because he just grasped at straws to get rid of that thing, and he went last-ditch resort.
Yeah, there are some moves when you just see that play and you're like, thank you. Like, I know that you don't have anything else. I'm going to take advantage of that.
And I'll
But to
take
be
his
fair-
Contrador for later.
If you're using Contrador for that purpose, you're only doing it because you have to.
Yeah.
Like...
Mhm.
Oh,
Like
Lordy.
at that point, it's a desperate play, and if you're unless, or you just don't know any better, but that's hard.
One could call it a desperate defense.
You could. I don't know if it's quite.
Which, quick segue, because we didn't mention in Q&A, the dev said desperate defense is completely fine balance-wise, even though it is now its own deck format, and it's only one card.
We should probably do some talk at some point about desperate defense. It's gone on long enough. Look, it's gone on long enough.
You can't
I
ignore
misspoke.
the elephant in the room, gentlemen.
There is one other destroy card for Iron Warriors, and that's Rend. And this is
Yes.
why I go back to running Iron Warriors, because there is so much DD, and it's very funny to just instantly destroy one of their troops with Rend.
Right.
Nothing feels better than watching a troop just disappear in a
I loved
horrendous.
when I was playing Bulk more for a couple seasons, and at the time Custodians were out, and people would run their Telemon Dreadnoughts. And Custodians already had a bunch of frontline anyways, and I would take out everything that they had and be like, okay, Telemon Dreadnought, here's my Horrend, it's gone, bye. And then I'd saw it off with whatever combination that I had in hand. Yeah, Horrend is awesome, and I like he's a fair stat, 6/6 vehicle.
For 6?
With a rally with the destroy condition, I like it.
Yeah, for 6/6, he's a perfect value drop.
Mm-hmm.
And his
He can be
condition
generated
great.
by Narek. That's the best part.
Oh,
Yes. Well, let's talk about the warlords then. I mean, because they all do things different, which is great. I prefer that in a faction. I mean, we talked about Perturabo's ability. I think Perturabo is versatile in a lot of ways. Personally, I think he's the strongest of the four, especially as.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can deny that. Like
I can consistently get 10 win sprees on ladder almost every time I play him, and he can counter aggro. He can be aggro. He does whatever it is you need to do with that alternating 6 damage turn.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Reckoning
Whispers
isn't garbage.
yeah, I mean, it's a little hard to get off, especially depending on who your opponent is. But if you do, Not many reckonings give you
Pressure's
an instant
permanently up
8 frontline immediately after. It really keeps you safe.
Like, if you charge it up that turn, the next turn there's another. It's just
Yeah.
constant pressure until you can clear them, which is hard.
I love it.
Very fun faction.
He's just a solid warlord, which is great because I know when he first started, a lot of people were like, at the time, the support cards that were in the neutral card pool, I think, were kind of a limited lacking. And we talked about all these cards that are in the faction, many of which have seen changes, but the neutrals for Perturabo really open up because you have mortar strikes, you've got artillery strikes, you can throw in, planetary purge, you can throw in rain of fire. There's so many ways, like if you want to do burn, you void engagement, Lactitio to draw more stuff, or you could throw in, little weenie troops or frontline troops, or I'm like, there's so many ways to build him that I don't think you can go wrong. I don't know if the same goes for Forex.
Forex.
I mean, Forex is...
I love my Forex deck. I love it. It's so different compared to all my other Iron Warrior decks. It's just its own unique little bag of... It's the only one I siege with, because that's one of the few occasions you can pull off siege, is when you have all these frontline walls to soak the control.
Now, with Forex, do you use decimation?
Oh, yeah. No, my video, I think, is called Decimation Hash Fair or something. It's runs 2 attrition warfares, 2 decimations, and 2 harsh disciplines.
Ooh.
And it's just a delight because, you pump out that 1/3 on the first turn, and then on the second or third turn, you decimate it. And instantly give your entire... And the deck for Forex is 100% Astartes, I think. No vehicles.
Which, I mean, that makes it work for the other cards. Do you run the...
I think the only vehicle you have in that deck, because I remember seeing it, was like Horrend, but that's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, that's just... Use it if
that's
you
just
got
life. That's just life. Maybe Horrend and Rhino, but those are both like, if I'm running all the Astartes, why wouldn't I have a Rhino?
The Rhino, that's such a great vehicle. Like,
it's such a clutch
free card. Like, just play it on curve, you're going to get an extra card in return for it. It doesn't matter what
getting it turn 1 as Narek feels so good.
Yes. Like, if you had to choose, I mean, because then we've talked about the Falk. Gasm was on, we talked about the Falk, and I think the Falk deck is, I mean, it's clockwork. It does what it does. It puts out crazy damage. If you can't stop it, it's gonna just go. Yeah, you're gonna get killed. Draeger's different in the fact of how he creates stuff, so you don't know what you're gonna get, but it's consistent in the fact that he creates stuff, and you're always going to have a vehicle as a result of that with a higher health. I don't know. I mean, I've played them all. I played Forex a lot when they first came out. I didn't play Forex near as much since as I played Draeger, Falk, and Perturabo, which is surprising given how many other frontline warlords I played, right? Because I've got a bunch of videos for frontline warlords. I'm just looking at this now. I've got Forex up to 61 games, and I'm trying to get him above 50%. And that's just really where I'm at, is at 50% at 61 games. I've got 32 wins.
When I first started playing, and I originally was a Death Guard main, climbing was impossible. I switched to Forex for just a little bit, and I climbed up 500, and it felt good back then.
Yeah.
was that through the aggro block?
Yeah, just about. Every time I run an Angron, it's like, you'll kill this, but you ain't hurting me.
You just gotta stay consistent with that. Yeah, that's the important thing. You just gotta stay consistent with it, because I played plenty of Forexes that made like 1-2 wrong turns and didn't drop a front line, and that's it. It's game.
Plus, I had 2 Logoses in the deck, so it's like, you'll take 3 damage, and I'm taking none. Angron, let's have a fun time, buddy.
This is why my Forex deck runs like 10 2 energy cost troops or cards. It's got 10 in the 2 slot.
Gonna want to use that ability.
Get the ability out there, pump it out, keep them on the board. They'll do something for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Narek is actually who I've been trying to meme out this last, week and a half or something. And I've gotten great competitive play, but by the time I got it to be great competitive play, it was no longer a meme. It was just a generically good deck.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel very entertaining. But you have to make them work, which it's heavy on the tactics. And you use the tactics of both damage and healing to stall out until about energy turn 7, and that's when you really start playing everything you've been building up to that point.
Yep.
Yeah.
The thing is that with his style, like, unless you're playing a bunch of like hard damage or control stuff in his deck, like it's hard because the way the game is right now, if you're running up against another Desperate Defense deck or another deck that's running ramp, right, Asteroid Sanctuaries, and maybe they're hitting you with the Desolated Ground, like that's hard because it counters what he wants to do. You guys should be playing on an even field, and right now the game exists that it's okay for your opponent to play 3-4 turns ahead of you. And the one advantage that he would have, he totally doesn't even get to enjoy.
Might I say, though, I love how the devs decided to give him Survivor 5, because he was one of the... I believe Salamander's already been out by then, but he was one of the few non-Salamanders.
No, he started with it.
No, he started with it, but I mean, like, as a non-Salamander option, he was the first one to get a Survivor 5 in near certain.
Oh, it's super necessary for him.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah. It buffs him from just another rare warlord to, he's basically another epic. Yeah, and it's just... I would, every day of the week, I'll take 30 and 5 rather than a 35 health warlord. It's just better. There's a board scenario where it's a 10-10 on board, and I have 3 HP, and the guy's got just his other warlord. Mm-hmm. I'm not dead next turn now, because I have Survivor 5. Yep. Instead of the alternative where it's like, he'll just hit me right in the face with that 10-10 right now, and I lose. Yep. Niche scenario there. Not really. Especially with how popular DD is, but just that case alone, it's like, why would I not want this alternative? Yeah, I mean, even in the more subtle cases, they get you down to 1 health and they hit you with something for 3, you essentially got 2 free health out of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be a huge soak, but it can soak extra. Yes. And if you're in a case where there's a 10-2 on board, I don't know why 10 is my favorite number today, and you still have your Survivor, but it will proc it when you kill it, hey, it's gone before your Survivor would have been broken through, or wouldn't have killed you. Yeah, offensively, you can suicide into something and then just be like, you did 3 damage to me, but I killed it. This off, buddy.
You gotta do it.
Oh, and Neric's an honorary salamander, which makes him the best.
With the warlords, I don't know, we talked about Perturabo. Who would you say is your second favorite? If we're saying Perturabo is the best of the 4.
I think Forex is my second favorite, even though Falk is probably the memeiest of them all. Because we all know the Falk meme.
Right.
Oh, Exodia.
He's got 1 gear, and that gear is Tyrannotos or whatever, and Escape Vent.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mix in some Harsh Discipline, I believe it's called, and some heal cards, and you have the game's over now, buddy. Have fun.
Yep. Not even that, at turn 4, you play the Tyrant, you give him stealth. On the next turn, he goes down to 5. Use Falk's ability, which will give him +4 and take him down to 4 health. Then you Harsh Discipline him, which takes him down to 3 health and gives him another 2. So that's 2 from the Relentless, 4 from Falk, and another 2 from that. So that's 8. Puts him to 11 with 3 health remaining. You swing for 11. Then he goes up to 13, 1. Then you swing for 13, and you've just done 24 damage on turn 5.
Yep, and if you have another Escape Vent in your pocket, you heal him, and then you hide him again.
Yeah, or, you can potentially, if you, at least in the case of my Forex version, if you happen to get off Decimation earlier on, you can give them a little extra health. And maybe you can even combine that with some kind of Dominators or something.
Yeah, if you get the Taranthikos veterans juiced up with the...
If you juice them boys.
If you juice those Taranthikos vets with the Dominators or the attrition warfare, and you get them, even if it's just by 1 pip, right? They're 4/7. Like, you've increased their damage range exponentially. I mean, the counter to that is your opponent just has to deal 5 damage to them on their turn, and they don't have to worry about them. And 9 times out of 10, if they've got a mortar strike, that's what it hits is the stealthed Taranthikos veterans, but they don't. It's gonna be a happy time for the Iron Warriors.
Oh yeah.
You asked me earlier, what is my favorite card from this faction? I think it's Rhino 77/235.
Really?
That's a draw one, right?
Yeah. This is the 3 energy for the 3/3 vehicle that has resolution.
Already perfectly static.
Get an Astarte from your deck. It's just
imagine the future. Imagine the version of it being relentless. How upset people would be. As resolution, it's perfect.
If they make that relentless, I quit this game. I swear to God, they can't do that to my Rhino.
It's perfect as is because I play it And not only am I getting a 3/3, but I'm cycling in another card from my deck that will be in Astartes.
And it's so good. I don't even run Jubok, in Iron Warriors. I don't need to, because I have 2 of these rhinos, and they're
2 Jukebox, but they're only my cards.
I play them, and then the enemy either face bashes into them while I'm per turbo, so that way when I face bash them the next turn, I don't get that extra draw, but then I'm still getting the whispers, so it's a win-win. If you're 4X, you easily protect the rhino with walls, and then you can play it, get a card, attack for 3, get a card, attack for another 3. You can legit get 6 damage, 2 card draw out of 3 energy. It's nuts.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that I like about cards like that, cards that draw a specific card out of your deck, is, and not as like an ability to pay for, or, like it just as a resolution or a relentless, or as a rally effect sometimes, is you're thinning your deck out. You're going to get an Astartes. You're guaranteed to get a troop for playing this troop. That increases your chances of drawing any other card besides that. So especially like if you are doing, and I mean like the classic Falk build is like minimal Astartes, so you're guaranteed to get the Tyranthicos. You could do it that way. Or you could just have one less Astartes so that when at the start of your next turn, your drawing increases your chances of drawing Contrador, Precision Bombardment, whatever it's going to be. You've thinned your deck down. There's 2 levels there. You're getting the card that you want, but you've also increased the chances of getting another card that you will need.
Yeah, it's a really good card. Plus, it just lets you spec towards what you want. So it's like, like you mentioned with the Falk, it's like, I'm only going to include this many Astartes in my Burn per Rabo deck. I'll have this so I can increase my chance of pulling gold in case I need a quick thing to hide behind. Pretty good.
Speaking
Hard
of
to
gold,
find something bad in the Iron Warriors.
yeah, they're really. I mean, there's some bad stuff, and if you look at some of the siege units, not because they're siege, but stat wise, you're like, I guess they put more points in, like the 5/3 that has Siege Destroy Troop, which is a great siege ability, but it's 3 health. And that's 1 Seek and Destroy, or that's Abaddon, and you just take out that troop. It does nothing for you.
Yeah, and then they have some troops that are just easily overshadowed by another, like Promadon, I think it's the Dreadnought's name, which is like, why would I include this when Dominators is beside it, the same energy cost?
Right.
Well, I mean, the main reason for Promadon is that you generated it with Merrick, and then it becomes a 6/5.
That makes it worth it.
I know people, though, who include it over Promadon. Yep, of course. Include it over Dominators in non-Neric decks. And I don't really know why.
Maybe because it's frontline, I guess that would be the only upsell. Like if you feel like I just need more frontline.
Yeah. Or if you're doing a vehicle shtick, you got Shell in Steel, and you have Logos, and you're bumping it up to like a 7/5, or you're also running Alice Garmanica or whatever, and he gives all of his vehicles +1.
Forbidden Protocols can make it fun.
Well, I was just about to say, with all the vehicles, like Forbidden Protocols is a very nice card to have. I just finally finished reading Cybernetica, which is the story that Scaramanca is in, and that's where he's on like cover art. Him and Dravian Clade were really good buds from the Raven Guard. It was an interesting story. I don't want to ruin it for you if you haven't read it there, Karmatose.
Not yet.
Just to say
but
that.
Do you like Alice? Is he a cool guy?
He is interesting. I mean, he's very Iron Warriors to me.
He's a character in a book.
He has a story arc. I mean, like I feel like I'm just being so vague. I'm not trying to be like a dick about it. Like I just like.
Hey, it's better than being one-dimensional.
Yeah, he's got a good story arc, and I like the fact that the way it's portrayed is he's buddies. Because he's on Mars, learning to become a tech priest. Like there's this group of
tech marine.
There's this group of Astartes who are all different factions, and they are on Mars when the rebellion kicks off, and that's really where the start of the story happens. Is like they're isolated because they're Astartes, so the Martians don't want them mixing with them. So they've already put them in this like special compound facility that's dedicated to recruits, and they haven't heard anything for a couple days, and then all of a sudden stuff goes down. They start hearing the war horns of Titans, and that's when it all kicks off. So it was kind of neat because you see I always like the stories at the start of the heresy, or stories where like you kind of get those pockets where there are Astartes who maybe weren't clued in on everything that's going on in the actual heresy or with their legion, what side they're actually on, and they have to realize, like, okay, I can't believe my brothers have made their choice to go this direction, whether it's loyalist or traitor, and I agree or disagree with it for the same or different reasons. Those just make for good stories.
Oh yeah.
And funny enough, I think in my recent Mechanicum, Swiss Mechanicum knife video, I specifically lost the game super hard to Alice because he managed to drop him and threw down like a front line or something in the way, and I couldn't get rid of the front line, and he immediately took over one of my vehicles.
Ooh,
And it hurt so bad.
I have never been able to use that ability.
Well, this guy did, and it felt bad, man. Now, usually he's just a nice 5 for 5/6 who might happen to benefit your vehicles if you know you have enough of them in there.
Yeah. If you're running Narek, there's no reason not to have him.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked about... Somebody on Reddit the other day said, Golg is better than Contrador.
Now, I don't necessarily agree with that statement, but it is interesting because Golg is a really good troop.
He is... he has got to be like the best high-cost legendary troop in the game for me, period.
Dang Touch is up there.
He's 8 for 8/9. He's an Astarte, so he doesn't have that vehicle disability. And he has a resolution, which is guaranteed value, and I will always put the highest value on rally resolution effects. And especially resolution. Resolution is my favorite ability in the game because it is guaranteed and it keeps happening. And in this case, it makes a 2/3 frontline who can remove siege from other troops. And then just him being 8 for an 8/9, 9 health is hard.
Just as a side, I have resolution as the number 4 in my S tier. I have 3 S tiers.
What's number 1?
Number 1 is fast.
Okay.
Fast. Okay. I don't know why I didn't even bother assuming that.
All right. What's number 2 though?
Number 2 for me is sneak attack.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I put resolution over sneak attack, but it depends circumstantially because I can play a troop with sneak attack and get no value out of it. It's guaranteed value out of resolution and guaranteed value out of fast. So I would even put flank above sneak attack.
You'd be surprised what I have at number 3 then.
Is
What's
it
number
flank?
3?
It is flank.
Yeah.
Okay. I was worried.
Fast.
You're gonna have to
flank,
post this.
rally. Those are my top.
Yeah, I've got the list in the event of one day doing a video or a discussion for it because I think it's worth mentioning. Resolution is a very strong effect. It is an S tier effect because you're guaranteed to get it every turn, and it's something that your opponent has to answer with. Golg is good. I don't think he's not my favorite high cost legendary troop. He is definitely way better since they did the buff to him.
Oh yeah,
By far, because before it was like, why would you play this guy except for just having an 8/9 body? Yeah, because you have to deal with that frontline troop that he creates, and you have to because otherwise it's just gonna remove the siege on his ability, and he's gonna not only keep making those guys, but also deal you for 4 for free every turn, or just hit you for 8 or 16 if you've got some sort of bloodthirst ability that you can throw on him.
Yeah, Wrather.
I just don't think he's better than Conchador though for me because typically it's the timing to end games. You can end a game with one turn with Conchador, whereas with Golg he's got a stick. And depending on what your deck is, if you have too many Astartes, he might stick them because maybe your opponent has used some hard removal options. But if your troops are a little bit more limited, you're going more tactic, your opponent has got stuff for him by the time you drop them out. Like they'll have.
What's just saying is if you're burned Perturabo, he's not better than Contrador.
That's true. That's what I'm saying. Read between the lines.
I think Contrador is better, namely because I can win a game on energy turn 7 before I can even play Golg.
Yeah. 13 damage is a wide margin. That's almost half a rare warlord's HP. Won't see him often, but a ROM against a Perturabo, it's not a fun match for the ROM.
Mm-hmm. That window gets short really fast.
But now, here's a good question for you. Which is worse, Forgebreaker or the Horned Raiment?
Horned Raiment
is worse than Forgebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Forgebreaker at least has a use on Forex. Find me a warlord where Horned Raiment is where you want it.
Well, the only upside that in that argument that I see is that Horned Raiment doesn't replace your warlord ability, whereas Horned Raiment
not if it was.
Yeah, whereas Forgebreaker does.
If Horned Raiment replaced the warlord's ability with two psychic energy, do something cool, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I don't.
If anything, they could make it work somewhat like Magnus's Whisper's ability. Give shield and then do some damage. Because then it would be the same way as like Book of Logar. What's it do? The same thing Logar is going to get once his Whispers kick off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so that could be nice.
It's they're neither of them are great. It's better than it was in the fact that before it was just like paying 7 energy and your warlord got +2 attack. That was it. Like at that point in time, like
and a faction where you don't really go face off.
Right. It was like, what's the point? Like, I mean,
defensively was the point. I think things would hit you, and it would double your chance of killing whatever just face bashed you.
That was about the only upsell for it. But at that point, like, do you want to spend 7 energy to do that, or would you rather spend 7 energy to deal, 11 damage? Like, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, it's not perfect. I don't think it's the worst legendary. I know some people still list it as the worst legendary. At one point, it was. It's not great.
I think it might be the second worst.
I
think Horned Raiment is the worst, and I think Forgebreaker might be the runner-up. I don't know what else would compete with Forgebreaker. Maybe some neutral.
Are you talking any legendary ever?
I think excluding the neutrals, because there are some pretty bad Chaos Lords or Greater Demons.
All right, you have to make that distinction.
But if you exclude like the awful Greater Demons, like Legion-wise, it's hard to find anything.
Mantle of Ultramar still exists, Karma.
I think it's cute.
Wait, you think it's cute?
That's going to be number 3 for me. I think it might. I would sooner run that than Forgebreaker, with the exception that I do run Forgebreaker in Forex. You are right. I don't know if I ran that because it was just a meme, or just because by the time you've hit late game, those 1/3s don't quite pack the same punch, and 4 damage stun is actually pretty nice. So, you're right. Maybe I do put Forgebreaker above Mantle of Ultramar. I think you might have got me.
We got him.
We got him, boys.
Right here. This is it. You heard it here first. He's been got.
Yeah. I'm also not a big fan of Portma, but again, we're excluding neutrals.
Because if we're not excluding neutrals, there's easily 4 or 5 I could throw down that I think are worse than Forgebreaker. If we're talking faction legendaries as a whole, it's not great. For me, I think Horned Raiment is definitely one I always pass on. I have to dig deep. There's probably like the Punisher. I would still say I pass on, even following its buff. Like I'd put Punisher before I'd put Forgebreaker at the bottom of my list.
Buff, or simply here's something that still won't be used, but it at least looks a little better on paper.
It's good for low tier players, and I think Forgebreaker has a place for low tier players. Like if you were an Iron Warriors player, just started up the game, and that was your first legendary, you'd be happy because you wouldn't know any better, and the games that you're playing, when your warlord can suddenly get +2 attack, that would be cool. But then when you start playing games where your opponent's world leaders are throwing down Gorechild ×2 on energy 5 and 6, you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right. Like, how come they can deal 4 energy, and then I've got to pay 7 to get a card that lets me pay 2 on my next turn to deal 4? Like, at that point, you might feel like the disparity exists. But for those low tier players, I don't think that they know any better, or they would care as much.
It needs to cost less, is what it needs. I still wouldn't see it used, I bet.
Yeah.
Or what if they reduced it to 1 energy deal for it? No, I'd rather it actually just cost less to get into play.
If it costs 6 to put into play, it would be. I mean, obviously, if it costs less to put into play, it's gonna be better. I don't think it should cost 5.
Yeah.
I think 6 is fair.
No.
I would love to see a new mechanic, actually, where a warlord could have 2 abilities. Because if you think about it, you press your warlord, and it puts a little box in the corner that you then click.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be too terrible to put 2 boxes there, and then you click one of them, and then target something with it.
We do have warlords
Or even
who are able
move
to
the
do
ability
multiple things, right? Like especially the Ultramarines, they
Yeah.
branch that out where you can choose to deal damage or gain survivor, or you can choose to target a troop or draw.
Yeah, but in those cases, it's a single box, and it changes its effects based on your target.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, depending on the Legion, if they were to balance the Legion right, though this could have issues with Kaizu Lane and Jubok and stuff, they could easily make it so it just changes your ability slightly, and also you can now target your Warlord and do blank. Mind you, that may totally ruin some Legions, obviously, but that's hypothetical.
Yeah, it's hypothetical. I mean, I don't think we're going to see it changed anytime soon, although...
Yeah.
To be fair, I think it's possible that the Iron Warriors get looked at after Defenders of Terra. Just thematically, I think we'll see them in events that as it relates to the Siege of Terra, slightly related, do you think that the first event that releases the new expansion, which is the Imperial Fist, do you think it is going to be Imperial Fist versus Iron Warriors at fall?
Oh yeah, easily. That, or they're just going to double down, put him in the Iron Cage. Just no. That might be like a future. Like, will they ever do a like flash forward event? They've done flashbacks.
They've done flashbacks, and flashbacks mean like before the heresy started. Some of these flashback events have taken place before Istvan 3. But they've never done like a flash forward. I see that being the kickoff. The problem is 2 of the warlords, at least, would not like him, because we know Dorn wasn't at fall, right? The only warlord that we could say would be at fall would be Alexis Pollux.
I don't think that's ever stopped them from,
I don't know, because it feels like the ones that they've done flashbacks on, most of the warlords were present at. I could be wrong.
It's definitely moved some decisions. But besides that, I don't really know what you could put.
I would see them doing, and it's either, for me, it's either a hard case that they would either do that as the debut or the Battle of Pluto with the Alpha Legion versus the Imperial Fists.
Yeah, where our poor Alpharius gets his head, well, not literally cut off, but he gets murdered.
But that's not much of a flashback. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, if we're talking flashbacks, there's so few engagements with the Imperial Fist and other, like, head-to-heads.
Well, to be completely honest, most of their engagements are sitting in the palace watching over it.
Hey, listen, that the Emperor chose them of all of the legions.
The ones that are really good at sitting in a hole and firing forward, to sit in a hole and fire forward.
Listen, Perturabo, I know you've got aspirations to do some great architecture.
I know you're the literal architect of your brothers, but Dorn's pretty good.
But, I think you need to get a little salty and come see me when you're full of salt, and we'll talk. That's what happens.
Whispers of Iron and Salt, meme deck video available to you now on YouTube.
Well, yeah, we could talk about plugs if you want to jump to the plugs.
Might as well.
We covered everything with the Iron Warrior. So let's go through this then. We've talked about the card pool, talked about the lore. We could talk more lore, but it sounds like Karma's got some books to read first. We've talked about Karma's favorite Iron Warriors card. My favorite Iron Warriors card, Precision Bombardment. What is yours, Axel?
I gotta say Viral Bombs. It's so thematically appropriate. Like, there's no other Legion where you go, like, most people go DG when it comes to, like, bioweapons, but man, did Iron Warriors love reducing everything to just complete goop.
Yeah, it's
a fun card.
It is a fun card. It is a card that I enjoy playing when I'm losing or winning. Like, it doesn't matter. I enjoy playing that card.
Dying by it, when I play it, is a fun way to go out. Because it's like, oh, I'm already going to lose this. I go out by my terms. And then you just nuke the entire board.
And you feel you feel like an Iron Warrior's doing it that way.
And hell, you can even get a draw that way.
It's the only card, I think, that got reasonably nerfed when they changed the game mechanic about death timing. Because it used to be the case that Viral Bombs, the second the enemy warlord hit 0 health, game over. Mm-hmm. Now, it'll actually just keep going and going. And you could find yourself meeting a draw. Not the worst thing in the world. It doesn't happen very often, but no other cards really can cause this phenomenon other than Viral Bombs.
Yeah.
In the opposite scenario, you can also use it to turn a loss into a draw, which is equally nice.
Now,
yeah.
Did they change on the timing? Because if I recall correctly, there was some issue with the timing too, where sometimes if you would play that Viral Bomb, and in the course of all the backlash triggers, you would wipe out the Righteous Zealots, right? And then their backlash triggers after all the Viral Bombs had been dispersed, right? I think that still is the case, isn't it? So, like, if you have, like, 4 Righteous Zealots and a 3 health troop, and you hit a Viral Bomb, you're only going to trigger the Viral Bomb 1 additional time, or 2 additional times, as opposed to all of the, like, 3 additional times for all the Righteous Zealots, or the Wounded Zealots that they create.
I can say this for certain. I quit a game last week because an enemy had an Arcology. The Arcology had 2 health. I played Viral Bombs thinking, game over, man. 2 damage to the Arcology. It spawns 5/1/1s. I deal 1 damage to all. And what it actually behaviorally did is it killed the Arcology. It visually spawned all of them. Then it did a 1 damage tick that only hit the Warlords, and all 5/1/1s were perfectly safe.
Yep.
And I was like, quit.
Yep.
I was bitter.
That's the timing. Unfortunately, the backlash effects trigger after the entire triggering of viral bombs has commenced. So, yeah.
There is an exception, I think, which is essentially what's happening with the viral bomb bombing is that it's the same thing that happens with traps, where traps perpetually makes you draw cards, and you'll notice that you'll get trap after trap after trap, and then after so many traps, you'll start taking the 5 damage from all the traps that you drew up to that point, and then it'll go back to drawing cards again. So essentially there's these event timer windows, and there is a maximum length to the array of how many events can happen within a single frame window. So the drawing extra cards is something that doesn't start a new frame window until you've drawn 5 or 10 cards or something, and then every 5 or 10 cards it'll catch up all the events that happen in those, and etc. Viral bombs is the same way, where it's one item on the stack, it starts doing damage, it'll start doing all the proccing and killing, and things removing off the board is not a state frame or whatever. But eventually, if there's enough things on the board, you can actually cause the things to spawn due to backlash and then also kill them. But you have to have enough things in between to kind of trick the timing that they have set up. I've seen it. It's weird. You can't predict it unless you... I don't know. I need to go look at some of my replays now, and I got to find that timing. I need to see
Very highly
exactly
specific.
how many, because an example is every unit that's killed is one of those subframes. So if a frame is the entire viral, or supposed to be the entire viral bomb, if you kill 5 troops and that takes up 5 of the subframes, then it'll catch up all their backlashes, and then viral bomb will continue for another 5 subframes. And I just got to figure out exactly what those numbers are to really bust out that foreknowledge.
Yeah, that would take a lot of backlashes that put into play units that also have, like, you'd need a full board with a lot of units like that and the time. And I mean, you mentioned the traps, and that's one thing about the problem with traps sometimes is when one triggers, it's on your turn, and your turn counter, like your timer of your actual turn, like getting chewed up by that. Whereas viral bombs, like if you play that at the end go, like you just can sit back and let it happen. And I don't know, maybe they're on the same level with that or not. It's like, it's not like the turn is going to end without all of your viral bombs resolving.
Viral bombs will certainly pause the clock.
Yeah.
I can say that much.
Had some particularly long viral bomb related games, Karma?
No, I think I had a Reddit post the other day. Not the other day, maybe the other month. Let me see if I can find it, but the setup picture for that was bomb. I wish I had saved it because it's a perfect example. Oh, it was against Word Bearers, and it had the guy that says when your troops die, it created more troops, the 3/3s, and then he also had a pair of the 2/2s that create 1/1s, and I actually completely cleared the entire board because of that subframe window. Yeah, Cully, let me see if did I not pin that? I thought I was going to make a mini recording for that. Now it's not under my pins. SOB. I must have forgotten about it. But I have the Reddit post.
Quick shout out to Everguild real quick. Fix your damn, what's it called, replays. For some reason, the ones I shared are showing random ones now to my group. That's weird.
Well, has the original game, that is it still in your battle log or has it dropped off?
It's still in my battle log, but I share it to my lodge, and the lodge see a different match.
Oh.
It gets replaced by more recent matches. For example, I played against a player as an Alpha Legionnaire, and I beat him with only 1 HP remaining. I saved it. I then I checked it again in my lodge just because I wanted to check it again, even though I do have it pinned. It is now a different one. It is a different match with a buddy of mine I did. Don't know why that happened, but it did.
Just chalk it up to them getting ready for the expansion, man. That's what it is.
Listen, we can't use that excuse for everything.
I'm going to use that excuse for 3 weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't a Reddit post. It must have been a Discord post. I can still find the picture. Tisk tisk.
Well, let's talk plugs, because we got stuff that's coming up. I know we got reveals and spoilers and YouTube channels and all that. Karmatose, you got stuff you want to plug?
Yeah, we have reveals for both me and Scuff. I'm scheduled for Tuesday. Are you scheduled for Tuesday, Scuff?
I am scheduled for Tuesday as well.
Yeah. So that's a pair of reveals.
That's a pair of reveals.
Of course, check that.
I was going to say, by the time they're listening to this, the reveals have taken place. But we could hype up about reveals for Sisters of Silence.
I look forward to the remotes. I hope it's nothing but Chaos Spawn emotes.
So,
I want all their emotes just to be blank.
Hand signs, like gestures angrily.
Yeah, I was about to say hand signs that you viciously.
Yeah, signs to take cover.
Thumbs up.
Don't they have like their own version of the Vox, which is just a bunch of random clicks or something? I know they have some.
They had a Sisters of Silence way back when as an event warlord. I mean, like way back when.
Yeah,
And
like wasn't it just tactics cost one more or something?
It was
like that?
well, yeah. And I think she might have slightly appeared in Prospero, but her initial appearance was what was like actually like Flight of Eisenstein, like Lord of Fly's debut appearance. Yeah, she had a passive where her like enemy abilities cost one more, but all of her emotes were hand signs, and it was just basically like it kind of sounded like ninja karate chops, like from like a kung fu movie, like
it's just like whooshing.
Yeah, exactly. That's like backflip. I think that's what it sounded like. So I expect we'll get some of that, although we may, I don't know, like maybe we'll get like a rustling of a sword or I don't know, like what else, like a whip crack.
Maybe when they die, they'll actually say something because they're dying.
They might cry out like in agony, like a sound of pain.
Well, I know it says in their lore they're even trained not to during pain, so
really?
They might. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to them though. I mean, I'm looking forward to everything that's coming. Agents of
I know for a
Sigillet.
fact they do make a noise because they do communicate over the Vox. I just forget what it sounds like. I'm going to try to Google that.
No, I think it's clicking. I think there's a short story in like the 10th Horus Heresy book, and their voxing is, I think, through a form of clicking.
That's basically. Not even that. I'm thinking it's just like Morse code.
Is it like they're like calling kitties like pss, 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 pss.
Maybe there was like a device that transforms thoughts into like a rapid, mechanical like language.
That would make sense. Like it's like not quite binary, but some form of communication.
Yeah, something noisy.
It was basically a mechanical rattle or clicking called Orksod. It sounds like cogwheels turning, basically.
Maybe we'll get something.
Yeah.
You never know. I don't know, man. I'm hyped for it.
Constant cogwheel turning.
Well, Karmatose and I are going to be doing spoilers for that, I'm sure, as well as
I'm going to be watching eagerly.
Yeah, be paying attention to the videos. Karmatose has got a YouTube channel, so if you haven't checked it out, check it out. That's where he does his stuff.
Karmatose's channel is called Karmatose.
Karmatose videos. It's nothing but memes and a couple good decks, which, I mean, again, I don't read meta reports, so take that with a grain of salt.
We're going to assume they're good decks.
As long as you're having fun building and playing them, that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Axel, you got anything you want to plug?
I did declare war in Arizona once. Now that Karma is here, that's ironic. Hey, Karma.
Aha!
I forget why. I think it might have been your daylight savings.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it was daylight savings time related.
I have enjoyed this state ever since I moved here a year or so ago.
Well, that's a shame because the crabs come slowly and sideways, but we do come. Besides that, I'll shout out Dorn again because great artist, did my profile picture, which turned out beautiful. That's everything will be Arbites on Instagram and Drew Lee Clark.
Well, I'm not going to have to plug deck slots, but I'm going to say deck slots because we are getting new deck slots. I feel like the plugging has been effective.
Truly helped.
There is something that I cannot plug yet because I don't know if it's actually going to take place or be finalized, but I'm going to hype it here. It is future hype. This is future, unknown, speculative hype. But pay attention. Pay attention to things to come. If I get more information, maybe I'll be able to hype it better on the next episode that we do. I got an email. I got a couple emails from Everguild with the Imperial Fist spoilers, and this is not really more of a plug, but I do want to shout them out and thank you to Everguild because for the longest time, for those, I don't know if I've mentioned it here on the podcast. I know I've mentioned it in Discord and maybe once or twice on a YouTube video, but for the longest time, I had been bugging Everguild for doing the warlord voices for an Imperial Fist warlord because I really, really wanted to. And at one point in the Q&As, at one of the Q&As like a while back, they were like, well, we only work with professional voice actors. And I was like, okay, well, I may not be a professional voice actor, but I'm going to send you some auditions anyways. So I sent them, I was just using my phone. This is before I got my laptop. So I just had my phone recorder and like not even a good mic, just kind of recording me reading some excerpts with like
talking in a Pringle can for Vox.
Like with talking like Dorn and the Sigillet and Sigismund. I think those are the three that I read. I was just trying to
get a few Sister of Silence voices, but they didn't come out well.
I was just like 3 different voices, trying to give him some range, and I send them off to him, and I never heard anything back. And obviously, here we are with new Imperial Fist. I'm like, okay, well, obviously they didn't. They must not have really cared for my auditions, but they did send me a PS on this with the spoilers this morning, and I did want to shout them out. There's like, oh, big thanks for actually responding. Their PS was, I just noticed we never got around to responding to your messages regarding doing voiceovers for the Imperial Fist Warlords. We were really keen on working with you, but unfortunately Games Workshop felt the quality of the samples wasn't high enough. Sorry about that, and also apologies for not getting back to you on it earlier. So thank you to Everguild for actually responding to that, and I that's fine. I can live with that. I'm not good enough for GW. It's okay.
You'll for that until the event warlords run around. You'll try again.
I'll try again. Hey, look, we could get
better
5th
audio quality,
warlords.
there's a chance.
Give me a chance, man. I got a new mic. I got a laptop now. I can make better audio. I promise.
Oh, and hire super anchors to be the Dorn Altart voice.
That'd be okay. Look, I mean, GW signed off on Ferris on Lehman Russ doing Umjod
And Axe. What's his name?
Ascaleon? Yes.
Yeah, that's his name.
Master
Oh,
of
God,
a
he's great.
sanguinary god.
Elmer Fudd.
But it's okay. But like, I just wanted, like, it was nice getting a response to that. So, anyways, there's an email thread there, so I'm hyped for some stuff that I might be able to share down the road. But that's really all I've got to plug.
I got 1.5 things to plug, or 1 thing to plug and 1 thing to request. One bonus plug is, if you like Warhammer card games, there's an extinct Warhammer card game called Warhammer 40k Conquest. This was an LCG made by
Fantasy Flight Games.
Yeah. And it's actually very good. I don't own all the cards. I own maybe, I don't know, 75% of them. Everything except the last expansion, because that's when they like broke off their deal with Black Library / Games Workshop or whatever, and they couldn't produce it anymore. So there's a very finite, but there's a tabletop community, a tabletop simulator community, who plays this online in a Discord, and they've built up deck builders and independent websites that you can then import into Tabletop Simulator, and it handles all the shuffling and all the card drawing, and you play the stuff, and they have it's a very intimate Discord community of like the senseis actually teaching you how to play because this is more like a board game or a literal card game. You don't have an engine necessarily to do everything for you.
Right.
There's no tutorial other than the tutorials. These people are such fanatics about this that they've actually released expansions post closure of the game.
Yeah,
they got their own graphic artists together, and they made entire sets and have it available that you can buy physically, or in this case, use digitally. It's pretty impressive.
Wait, so they actually have physical? Because I remember I played that game, and I think I might have not had the last blister pack. Because I know you're talking about when the game folded. I might have gotten the whole collection, or I might be missing one last expansion. But when I bowed out, they were talking about making the fan-based expansions, but I wasn't sure that they were going to, like, most fan expansions of Dead Games, they just do, like, the visual files. But you're talking like they might actually have them printable?
Yeah, they do. And they have them printable on, like, I think it's called, like, Make Your Own Card Games or something like that. And they set up their profit margin for 0%, so they make no money from this.
Right.
But you can go there and drop, I don't know, $30 per set or less. I forget which, but you know, it'll auto print, and it has the correct backs and the correct, their graphic design fronts, and it ships out to you. Yeah. I'll share at least the Discord for you, and it should all be in the pins there. Poca is the name. They're also on Reddit. I think if you just go to the Conquest 40k Reddit, this is how I found all this out.
Okay.
Through the Reddit, I found their Discord, I found their thing, and that's super fun. My request, though, is that I actually want to play 40k, the miniature game, and I need a tabletop simulator sensei to show me the ropes, somebody who is familiar with the best way to play it on Tabletop Simulator, and somebody who wants to, I don't know, maybe have a new Karmatose video series with me, teaching me how to maximize my Iron Warriors or something.
Playing 40k on the Tabletop Simulator. I have not played it on Tabletop Simulator, but I understand that is a good use for it. A lot of people do.
Yeah, so I'm requesting a friend.
All right. So if you were
Please
listening,
be my friend.
yeah, if you're listening and you're familiar with Tabletop Simulator and you use it to play Warhammer 40,000, hit up Karmatose.
Make a dating make like a dating profile right now. Talk about your interests and stuff. You'll get pics.
You can find me
Swipe left
on the Discord for HA on the main board. I'm up in the upper right corner. I'm orange. You can see a big orange Eye of Sauron with Star Trek Lucifer in front. And
I like walking through. I like taking long walks through post-viral bombed cities.
Demon number 1. Tell me about yourself.
Well, we'll see you in 2 and 2. Was it a match? Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, if you can, and let us know if somebody hits you up or if somebody's out there that wants to get in touch with Karmatose, either on Reddit or on the Discord, if you're familiar with the Tabletop Simulator game, because it's always good to have somebody to introduce or walk you through learning the finer things of the game as well as actually playing. Hopefully you don't have a teacher like my friend was with the Iron Warriors. Like, you don't want to have that be your first game experience.
Hey, if that's how you learn, that's how you learn.
Sometimes
I might do the same for 30K.
Get your hand slapped. You learn not to put it in the cookie jar anymore.
I might do the same for 30K because I really want to play 30K on Tabletop Sim. While a certain thing called COVID is quietly shutting down everything, because I just went my area kind of went back into a bit of lockdown because we had a new strain pop up that's 2 times as worse as the last one. So I'm sad.
That's news to me, but gross.
Yeah, it was a new strain from I forget what country now. I'm thinking about it, but
it didn't spawn from your beavers, or
no? It's definitely the moose's fault.
It's not the maple leaf strain.
It's not the maple leaf strain. It's a meese strain, purely on the meese's end.
Yep.
Right.
Tabletop's fun.
Well, I think that's kind of it. I think that wraps up things nicely. Thank you for making it on Karmatose. This was a ambitious episode. We had a lot to cover. I think we did it well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We all mutually agreed upon how great Iron Warriors are and how Imperial Fists suck.
Well, I don't know if that's a mutual agreement, but I'll tell you what, when you finish reading Angel Exterminatus and maybe a couple other stories you want to come back on and just talk lore, I think we're going to get to that point at some point. The next faction that we're going to be talking about, though, is the White Scars, right? They're the 5th Legion. So
you could have told me any number and I would have nodded because White Scars was that much off my radar.
Yeah.
I think I
can tell you a neat
Fallen Angels.
I can tell you a neat tidbit about every legion. When I get to White Scars, I just go, they zoom, and that's all I can think of. They have a cool fortress. Now that I think about it, like their chapter fortress, they got like entire forests in there just for hunting. That's all the lore I got for them. I'll have to do some homework for the next.
I'm not sure when we're going to get there because we've got some things to cover. I want to cover World Cup. We got the qualifiers that's coming up. There's a lot to do.
And by the time they drop, Imperial Fist will be out. By the time
Imperial Fist and all the other expansions. So I mean, we're going to get to it when we do the chapter focus series.
We'll burn that bridge when we get there.
When we get there. So, all right. Well, thank you, Karmatose, for making it. And everybody, that's it. Have a good rest of the week. Good luck defending Terra, and enjoy the new cards. That's it for me. Bye.
Have a good one, folks.
Bye. Thanks, Scuff. Thanks, Axel.
A magnificent ending.
This has been another episode of the Warp Chatter Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Yes. Yes.
Shh. It's over. Don't fight it.